Welcome, everyone. In today's analysis, we're stepping way off the beaten path. Forget the flashing neon lights and the towering concrete jungles for a minute. Today, we're going on a journey to uncover America's hidden rural life. You know, when we think of the United States, we're constantly bombarded with this super specific, highly commercialized image, right? But there's this massive, beautiful, and culturally rich world operating completely under the radar. And we're going to explore exactly how those communities live, work, and absolutely thrive.
Okay, so let's dive right in. I want you to really ask yourself, what actually lies beyond America's famous skyscrapers and those bustling, crowded cities? Your mind probably jumps straight to the Hollywood version, right? The endless avenues, fast-paced living, that constant, deafening noise of traffic. We kind of just assume it's an entirely urban, high-speed country. But what if I told you that all of that is really just a tiny fraction of the actual geographic reality? To really wrap our heads around rural America, we first got to look at the country's massive, and I mean massive, footprint. We're looking at a population of over 340 million people, which ranks third globally. Geographically, it covers a staggering 9.19 million square kilometers. That makes it the fourth largest country by area on the entire planet. And here's a fun fact for you. Despite its incredible size and global influence, the U.S. actually doesn't have an official language at the federal level, though obviously English is what's mostly spoken. Anyway, this immense landmass leaves an unbelievable amount of wide open space right outside those city limits.
So how is that population actually split up? Well, a dominant 82% is completely packed into urban and suburban centers. But it's that remaining 18%, the rural population, that we are dedicating this entire explainer to. Now, 18% might sound like a tiny sliver on a chart, but remember, in a country of 340 million, that literally translates to tens of millions of people. That's enough folks to fill several whole countries, all living out in the vast open countryside.
Section 1. Beyond the big cities, the rural landscape.
We're officially leaving the metropolis behind to look at the physical reality of where these millions of folks actually live. And the contrast is just stark. On one side, you have the urban expectation. You know, the noise, the crushing crowds, the vertical living where everyone's stacked on top of each other. But the rural reality? It's a whole different ballgame. Out in the American countryside, people generally live in these large, sprawling houses of wood or brick. We are absolutely not talking about cramped apartments here. These homes sit on wide-open fields with ridiculously spacious gardens and yards, usually bordered by classic wooden fences. It's this serene, horizontal expansion that immediately just grounds you. You can almost feel the tranquility.
Section 2. Work and agriculture, the heartbeat of the village.
Now, obviously, having all that open space isn't just for show. It serves a deeply profound purpose. The absolute lifeblood of these areas is agriculture. Literally, vast, endless stretches of the American countryside are dedicated to cultivating the crops that feed not just the nation, but honestly, the whole world. We're talking about oceans of green and golden fields, corn, wheat, barley, and even these stunning, vibrant fields of sunflowers. These definitely aren't your quaint little backyard gardens. This is massive, large-scale farming that acts as the absolute backbone of the rural economy. But hey, growing crops, that's really only half the agricultural equation. Raising livestock is the other massive pillar here. Spread across these open plains, you're going to find farmers managing enormous herds of cows, sheep, and goats, not to mention raising horses. And then you have dairy farming and poultry farming, which are these highly organized, insanely vital operations. It takes just an incredible amount of dedication and hard work. They're essentially turning the natural landscape into this highly productive ecosystem that sustains entire regions. That being said, it is so important not to box rural America into just one single category. The economy out there is surprisingly diverse. Sure, farming is the centerpiece, but local artisan businesses, they absolutely thrive. Picture this: small, multi-generational family-owned bakeries, highly skilled woodworking, and beautiful traditional handicrafts. Plus, rural tourism is a huge economic driver. Believe it or not, people from those packed, chaotic cities actually flock out here to experience the natural beauty, check out historical sites, and honestly, just get a tiny taste of this peaceful lifestyle.
Section 3. Culture, community, and food, a deliberate pace of life.
So, how do these folks actually spend their days? Like, what really binds them together? Well, their daily routine is incredibly structured and, quite frankly, deeply tied to the natural rhythms of the earth. It is literally the polar opposite of the chaotic frenzy of city living. It kicks off with really early mornings, heading out to the fields the second the sun peaks over the horizon. The daytime is entirely dedicated to the gritty, hard work of tending crops and livestock. But the payoff comes in the evenings. That's when everything slows down. They sit outside, kick back, and relax with family, friends, and neighbors. It's a very deliberate, unhurried pace. They prioritize genuine connection over the constant hustle.
And that deep sense of connection, it ripples out to the entire broader community. In rural America, pretty much everyone knows their neighbors. They build these incredibly tight-knit bonds through shared traditions. For a lot of folks, Sunday church services act as the weekly gathering point to catch up. Then, throughout the year, the whole community just comes alive with these vibrant annual fairs and harvest festivals to celebrate the season's yield. You also see a real dedication to preserving traditional handicrafts like weaving and pottery, which are lovingly passed down from generation to generation.
Okay, you absolutely cannot talk about rural community gatherings without talking about the food. The traditional rural diet is pure, simple, and hyper-local. Just imagine the smell of fresh, warm cornbread right out of the oven. Picture plates piled sky-high with vegetables that were quite literally pulled from the garden that morning, hearty home-cooked meats, and of course the legendary backyard barbecue. We are definitely not talking about fast food here. These are meals prepared with real care, usually from ingredients grown just a few miles down the road, and most importantly, they're meant to be shared together.
Section 4. Modern Technology in Villages, Subverting the Stereotype.
Now, I know what you're thinking. So far, this might sound a bit like stepping into a time machine, but the idea that rural America is somehow completely isolated and stuck in the past, that is a massive misconception. Over the last decade or so, technology has utterly transformed the rural landscape. Broad internet access is becoming increasingly common, which allows people to work and study fully online. And the farmers, they aren't just using old-school simple tools anymore. They are operating highly advanced GPS-guided agricultural machinery. Plus, the sheer convenience of online shopping and delivery services has totally bridged the retail gap between the city and the country. And actually, here's a really fascinating point. There is a huge, growing adoption of solar energy out there. It's a totally modern, eco-friendly approach to rural living.
This tech integration is also completely changing the game for education. At the local level, kids usually attend smaller, super tight-knit public or private schools. And as we just touched on, online education is rapidly rising in popularity for all ages. However, there is a distinct reality to this lifestyle when it comes to young adults. When it's time for higher education, there's a very significant trend of the youth migrating to larger cities so they can pursue specialized university degrees. In a way, they kind of become a bridge connecting these two very different American worlds.
Section 5. The Challenges They Face. The Reality Check.
As much as we've highlighted the beauty and the incredible advancements, we definitely need to keep things balanced here. Because despite its idyllic charm, choosing a rural life comes with some very genuine, very real modern-day struggles. Job scarcity is a massive issue. It's often what drives those newly educated youths to permanently relocate to the cities for steady employment. Another really critical challenge, the lack of modern, fully equipped hospitals nearby. If you have a severe health issue, you're often looking at some seriously long travel times to get care. On top of that, farmers are constantly at the mercy of harsh, totally unpredictable weather that can literally devastate their livelihoods overnight. And yeah, while connectivity has definitely improved, there are still deeply remote areas out there struggling with super frustrating internet gaps. Yet even with these pretty formidable challenges staring them in the face, the people who live here actively choose this life for a reason. There's a quote that I think perfectly captures this. It's a life close to nature, built on hard work, honesty, and community support. The rural American spirit is basically defined by this incredible, unbreakable resilience. They face down the crazy weather, the isolation, the backbreaking labor head-on. Why? Because the reward, a genuinely peaceful existence surrounded by breathtaking natural beauty and an actual, supportive community, is just entirely worth it to them.
Which really leaves us with a final kind of provocative thought to chew on. From day one, we're essentially taught that the American dream is all about climbing the corporate ladder, acquiring endless wealth, and living in a fast-paced metropolis, right? But looking at the absolute peace, the deep, grounding connection to nature, and the fiercely strong community bonds we've explored today, is it possible that this quiet, rural life is actually the true American dream? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it gave you a fresh, new perspective on the hidden heart of America. Keep exploring, and I'll see you next time.